Welcome back, everybody. We talk often on the show about the rising impact of artificial intelligence, the data centers, all the things that go. We talk about it from what we need from the energy, what we need from the government. But at the end of the day, AI is going to be one of the most impactful moments in humanity. It's going to change people's jobs and careers and economics in ways that we've not even fully imagined. Someone who testified today before the Congress at the House Small Business Subcommittee on Rural Development, Energy and Supply Chains, gave a pretty darn good overview today. He's joining us right now. He's the CEO of Overwatch Mission Critical, Kirk Offel. Kirk, good to have you here.
It's an honor to be here. Great to meet you both.
I've watched your work. You've done some great op-eds on Fox News. I love the perspective you take on this because a lot of the AI debates have been about the perfunctory, but you have a way of getting us up at 30,000 feet and looking at this for what it's going to do. This is going to be a career changer, an economic changer, a humanity changer. You delivered that message today.
I tried to my best. So, look, I tried to explain to people. I think that there's a lot of people that have been fed a pretty negative or steady diet of bad information or misinformation on what the data center industry really offers and what AI really means to them. And I think if I didn't understand that stuff, I'd be scared too. Well, right off the bat, people are worried about energy, they're worried about water, they're worried about environmental impact, and they're worried about job creations. But the pattern has been that was the same fears and concerns we had when we launched the U.S. railway system, which was the first transformational infrastructure program our country has ever seen. We did it again when we electrified the U.S. grid. Same problems, same challenges we face today, we faced then. We saw it when we started creating the interstate highway program because we had an automobile revolution that had a demand of energy that grew by 50-fold. So all the same concerns we had. I mean, people fail to remember that the very first cars we built were massively inefficient. They were noisy, they polluted, and they were unsafe. I mean, it took decades until we even adopted seatbelts, and it took many years longer until they became mandatory. So we're in the early stages. We're about where the automobile industry was 100 years ago, and that's where we're at today. And now we don't want people back then wishing that we didn't have interstate highways or cars and we didn't want to not have electricity. And we have to battle the same misconceptions with AI. So I think what we've done as an industry is we've done a really poor job of explaining to people what these AI data centers are and what it means to them. Because right now people just think they're going to steal all of our utilities. And the answer is, in the future, these AI factories are going to become AI partners to the grid. They'll be utilities themselves. Not only do we design today at zero water, because for the same reason why you can't put water in your radiator, it will boil too fast. It can't absorb and reject heat fast enough. We use a different fluid in our car. Now we build data centers that run so hot, we have to use a different type of fluid. So we design to zero water needs. And the energy will be something that we build behind the meter as our own utility, not only to support us, but to tie back into the grid to make the grid more sustainable and more safer in the long term. So it'll be us companies that are building it. But what I want people to do was, today when we were talking, I was trying to get them to reshape the way that they view this entire industry and not to see it as a box, but to see it as a career field that many people could come into that don't have to go to college, but they could get a really meaningful job that builds back the middle class right here in the United States. Because for every AI factory that we build, we have to build 8 adjacent factories to it just to build the components and the materials that go into that AI factory. Wow. And these AI factories, these are 5 to 7 year long construction projects that employ 5,000 people or more. We'll leave 2,000 people back to operate it. And for every person we leave back, it creates 6 new jobs in that local community. So we are job creators, and these are the people that are scared of data centers right now. They need to see it not as a thing that's to be scared about, but an opportunity that they can get involved with. This is the blue sky opportunity of AI. Can you imagine going back 100 years ago and being the blue sky opportunity of the automobile industry, knowing what you know now? And today we work amongst the Henry Fords of our space. And I got to testify with one today. His name's Chris Crosby. He's one of the biggest legends and pioneers within this industry. And I get to work alongside those people. And I started from nothing, really on the bottom plate as a technician, and just worked my way up. So I'm living proof that this industry has the ability to grow you from zero to nothing. You just have to work hard.
Yeah. Pretty wild.
Yeah.
You know, awesome. We came to a time in our history last century as the interstate system, which I think was Eisenhower, is that Eisenhower? Mm-hmm. The interstate system was proliferating across the country, that we had to, as a society, but also had to conduct risk analyses to determine, 70 miles per hour on the freeway, and we had to weigh that risk, the death of people at that speed, with how much productivity could happen. Are we going to be in that space soon with this? Maybe we already are, where you have to weigh the risk versus the productivity, or are we moving to a place where the risk is negligible?
No. Very, very good question and very valid concern. We have we have started off in our infancy where you crawl, you walk, and you run. Today, we've gotten to the point where we've optimized these data centers to where the most sophisticated buildings on this planet today are considered data centers. And we've gotten to the part where we could remove as much of the risk and the dangers as we can outside of human nature and human circumstances. And we need to start looking at these things where we're like, is the juice worth the squeeze, is kind of what you were just asking. And the reality is what Henry Ford created wasn't just an automobile. He created an entire ecosystem that consisted of 1 million different small businesses. And in the first 29 years that he did that, he created 3.7 million new jobs. 80% of those jobs were small business.
That's amazing.
So is the juice worth the squeeze? We didn't just build a new vertical of industry within this nation. We built an entire American workforce because of that. So I would argue, like, we're going to have challenges along the way, and the soup is not done cooking. We haven't figured out how to code lock these things to make sure that they're as safe and sustainable as humanly possible. But without getting the rest of the world to stop hating the data center industry and start bringing their talent and their passion into it, we're not going to solve these problems. And the demand for talent in this industry, we're short 500,000 people right now. So, and that number is growing every month because we're on track to triple as an industry in the next 5 years. We're staring down the barrel right now of $5 trillion of construction. And to put some numbers behind that, for every $100 billion we do in data centers, we create for every $100 billion that we spend on data centers, we create $800 million worth of taxable revenue to that market. 500,000 new jobs, that's $40 billion to the U.S. labor side, and that gives you a $140 billion bump to the U.S. GDP. We have to stay ahead of other nations that don't share our values, that may want to take the most advanced weapon machine technology and use it against us. So we have no choice, just like we had no choice with the railways, we had no choice with electrification and the U.S. grid. If we don't solve for this with small businesses and labor from the United States, then not only will those jobs go overseas, but all that technology will as well. And that now doesn't make this a technology problem, that makes this a national security issue.
It's a security issue without a doubt. When the internet era was popping up here in the 90s and people were upset that the Dulles Green Wave were being turned into these other things, I interviewed a historian. He said the history of America on all of for the Industrial Revolution to the Computer Revolution was NIMBY gives way to, and I'm going to forget the term he had, YACM, yes at my dinner table. And that once people realized that they didn't want it in my backyard, but then they realized, hey, there's a personal benefit to me, there's buy-in and things happen. You were telling us something during the commercial break I find fascinating. There is a new era of tradesmen who's going to get paid really well, tradeswomen, tradesmen, and they're going to have new skill sets, they're going to have long-time employment. Talk about what that new tradesman is going to do, look like, get paid, and how they're getting trained right now, because you've started the process.
That's a great question. I appreciate you giving me the chance to reframe that. So if you think about it from an industry, craftsman-type tradesman platform, the very first utility we had in a home was plumbing. So we created plumbers. And the second utility we had was electricity, and we created electricians. It took 27 years before 1 in 4 Americans adopted that in their home. But that's what the adoption rate is for technology. It's not instantaneous. The third was connectivity when we put copper wires in home, and the fourth was gas. If you add those four together from an industrial basis, you have a data center, which we consider the fifth utility. The fifth utility is cloud. We're using it right now. People use it every day to buy things, to shop. And
story of videos.
So because we have a professional craft or a trade for every one of those other tradesmen, we need to adopt one for data centers. So we're here in Congress trying to talk to Congress and convincing our local representatives that it's time for us to start a brand new trade system with apprentices called data center apprentices. And those data center apprentices will get into delivery of the product, the technical repair of the product, or the operations of the product. But they all start with an apprenticeship program. And just like the electricians, you could be in that program for 4 to 5 years before you become a journeyman. It gives us time to put together the initial curriculum required to become a data center apprentice. And then with the industry and the help of policymakers, we'll be able to shape this into a brand new workforce. And the fastest path to becoming a millionaire today is through the trades, and we're offering a brand new one. And that trade won't be a specialist in just plumbing, or won't be a specialist only in electricity. They're going to have a hybrid background on all of those things, including construction. And we'll marry the entire apprentice around one shield of security and safety, where they understand that every job site they walk into, the number one KPI is always safety. So we're going to rebuild and retrain. And right now we're trying to repurpose as many as we can coming directly out of the military.
The high-paid super tradesmen. It's a pretty exciting moment ahead of us. It's going to be fascinating to watch them.
Yeah,
It's
very cool.
going to be great. Kirk, thanks for spending some time with us. We're going to get you back in the show because this is something we want to chronicle in real time. We're going to educate the public more. But great to have you on today. Great job in Congress.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Great to have fun. All right, folks. Quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll get to Dr. Peter McCullough to discuss how the MAHA movement has been shaping up now that we're in 2026. It's a year old already. We're going to get to that in just a second. But first, a couple commercial messages.